Most people who practice manifestation are running from themselves and calling it enlightenment. They paste affirmations over open wounds, force gratitude when they're grieving, and wonder why nothing shifts. The gap between what you're chanting and what you're actually feeling has a cost, and that cost compounds quietly until the day your entire belief system collapses under the weight of everything you refuse to feel. The pattern looks like this. Something painful happens. A breakup, a job loss, a rejection that cuts deeper than you expected. And instead of sitting with the wreckage, you reach for the toolkit. Everything happens for a reason. I'm raising my vibration. I release this with love and light. The words sound evolved, spiritually mature. The problem is your body knows better. Your chest is still tight, your jaw is still clenched, and now on top of the original pain, you've added a second layer, the guilt of feeling bad about feeling bad. Psychologists have a clinical term for this. They call it experiential avoidance, the systematic unwillingness to remain in contact with uncomfortable internal experiences. And research consistently shows it predicts anxiety, depression, and burnout more reliably than the difficult events themselves. The thing that damages you most is the running, the refusing to look. So where does manifestation fit into this? Because here's what's tricky. Intention setting, visualization, and belief shaping do have documented psychological effects. The research on mental rehearsal in athletes, on expectancy effects in medicine, on identity-based behavior change, it's real. Goal-directed thinking changes how your brain filters information. You start noticing opportunities that align with what you're focused on. That filtering mechanism is well established in attention research. The science supports the practice. The science just doesn't support the version where you skip the basement and redecorate the attic. Spiritual bypassing was first described by psychotherapist John Wellwood in the 1980s. He noticed a pattern among his meditation students. They were using spiritual concepts, detachment, acceptance as sophisticated defense mechanisms. The vocabulary changed, but the avoidance was identical to what he saw in patients who used alcohol or overwork. Same function. Keep the painful material out of conscious experience. Different packaging. And manifestation culture has inherited this tendency with compound interest. Scroll through any manifestation community and you'll find a hierarchy of emotions. Joy, gratitude, excitement, those are high vibration. Anger, sadness, fear, low vibration. The framework creates a caste system for your inner life. Certain feelings get promoted, others get exiled. You learn implicitly that grief is a manifestation blocker, that anger will attract more things to be angry about. That sadness means you're doing it wrong. Think about what that teaches you. It teaches you to perform okayness, to smile through the collapse, to journal about abundance while ignoring the knot in your stomach that's been there for months. You become a method actor in your own life, playing a version of yourself that doesn't exist yet, and burying the version that's asking for help right now. The clinical research on emotional suppression tells a consistent story. Suppressed emotions don't dissolve, they intensify. James Gross at Stanford has spent decades studying this. When people are instructed to suppress emotional responses, their physiological arousal actually increases. Heart rate goes up, skin conductance rises, the feeling gets louder inside even as the face gets quieter outside. You're spending metabolic energy to hold the door shut on something that's pushing harder the longer you hold it. So what does manifestation look like when you stop bypassing? It starts with a brutal admission. You can hold a vision for your future and still be in pain right now. Both things occupy the same moment. You can want a thriving business and also feel terrified that you're failing. You can set an intention for love and also grieve the relationship that ended. The goal and the grief coexist. One doesn't cancel the other. They share the room. This is where most manifestation advice breaks down. It treats emotions like toggle switches, flip from sad to grateful, from anxious to trusting, from angry to aligned. Emotions function more like weather systems. They move through. They have duration. And the fastest way to extend a storm is to stand in the middle of it, screaming that it should be sunny. Acceptance and commitment therapy, developed by Stephen Hayes, offers a framework that maps onto this perfectly. The core principle, psychological flexibility. The ability to contact the present moment fully, including uncomfortable thoughts and feelings, while still moving toward what matters to you. You don't wait until the fear passes to take action, you bring the fear with you. It rides in the passenger seat. You still drive. Applied to manifestation, this means your morning visualization practice includes space for whatever you're actually feeling. You sit down, you close your eyes, you picture the life you're building, and when the voice in your chest says, "But what if it never happens?" you let it speak. You don't argue with it. You don't affirmation blast it into silence. You acknowledge it the way you'd acknowledge a friend who's scared. Yeah, I hear you. We're still going. The counter-argument deserves honest consideration. Some manifestation practitioners argue that dwelling on negative emotions gives them power, that attention feeds whatever it lands on. And there's a grain of truth here. Rumination, the compulsive replaying of painful thoughts, does worsen outcomes. That's well documented. But there's a canyon of difference between rumination and acknowledgement. Rumination is a loop. You circle the same thought for hours, weeks, years. Acknowledgement is a moment. You feel it, you name it, you let it inform you, and you move. One keeps you stuck. The other is how mammals process threat. Feel the activation, let it discharge, return to baseline. Your body already knows how to do this. Watch a dog after a near miss with a car. It shakes full body vigorous for about 10 seconds. Then it walks away. The threat response completes its cycle. Humans are the only species that interrupts this cycle with narrative. I shouldn't feel this way. Positive vibes only. I need to raise my frequency. The narrative traps the activation in the body like a circuit that can't complete. Here's what changes when you let the circuit complete. Your intentions get cleaner. When you stop layering performance over pain, the things you actually want come into sharper focus. A lot of manifestation goals are escape plans disguised as dreams. I want to be rich sometimes means I want to stop feeling this specific anxiety about money that I inherited from watching my parents fight about bills every month. When you face that anxiety directly, when you let yourself feel it without rushing to transcend it, the goal underneath clarifies. Maybe what you want is security. Maybe what you want is the ability to be generous without counting. The real desire lives underneath the armored version. Your emotional honesty also changes how you relate to setbacks. In bypass culture, a setback triggers a crisis of faith. Why did I attract this? What's wrong with my vibration? What limiting belief caused this? Every obstacle becomes evidence of personal failure. When you stop treating emotions as manifestation currency, setbacks become information. A rejection tells you something about fit, timing, or approach. A failure reveals a gap in skill or strategy. The event stays an event. It doesn't become a referendum on your spiritual worthiness. There's a practice worth trying. Before your next visualization session, spend 2 minutes doing what therapists call an emotional check-in. Close your eyes, scan your body, name what's there without editing it. Tight shoulders, heavy chest, a low hum of dread I can't quite place. That's your starting point. You don't fix it. You don't reframe it. You mark it the way a hiker marks their position on a trail before choosing a direction. Then you begin your visualization from that honest ground. The difference is subtle at first. Over weeks it compounds into something that feels structurally different from performance. The version of manifestation that works, the version supported by goal-setting research, by identity psychology, by behavioral science, has always included the full human. The vision pulls you forward, the emotions tell you where you actually are. You need both coordinates to navigate. A destination without a current location is just a fantasy on a map with no "you are here" dot. Critics sometimes frame this as pessimism, as watering down the practice. The opposite is true. Feeling your grief fully and still choosing to build. That requires more conviction than chanting affirmations ever did. Anyone can repeat words. Sitting with the weight of your real experience and still setting an intention towards something better, that takes everything you have. And that tension, the one between where you are and where you're headed, the one that spiritual bypassing tries so hard to erase, that tension is the engine. Remove it, and you're floating, a balloon with no string, pretty to look at, impossible to steer. The most honest prayer is the one that holds both. I want more than this, and I'm letting myself feel exactly where I stand.